Welcome to Daily Politics on Trust TV. I'm your host, Hamza Idris. Compliments of the season, it is New Year of election in Nigeria. In this program, we discuss issues around politics, policy, and governance. And today, we will focus on matters arising from former President Olusegun Obasanjo's endorsement of Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi. And later in the program, we will look at the impact of the current insecurity in the Southeast on the coming elections. But before then, let's start with the tidbits. One of the spokespersons of the PDP campaign council, Daniel Bwala, has alleged that 11 governors, 11 of the ruling All Progressive Congress, are currently working underground for Atiku Abubakar, presidential candidate of the PDP. Speaking on Sunday, Bwala also disclosed that as at first week of December 2022, 37 senators and 15 House of Representatives elected under the platform of APC are also working for Atiku's victory in the 2023 presidential election. The PDP chieftain was responding to an interview granted by Prince Kasim Afebwa, a former commissioner for information in Edo State and staunch loyalist of Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, the candidate of the APC. Afebwa said he had it on good authority that Atiku met with 3 APC governors in Dubai. Also, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, says it has sufficient bimodal voter registration system, BIVAS, to conduct elections in the 176,846 polling units nationwide. INEC National Commissioner Festus Okoye made this disclosure during an interview on Channels TV's 2022 in retrospect. He said the BIVAS, which we said will be the game changer in relation to this election, is in place. And I'm quoting him now, and I want to confirm that we have a sufficient number of BIVAS that will be used in the conduct of the elections in the all electoral wards across the country. And finally, on the tidbits, the Social Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, has sued oil-producing states for allegedly failing to account for the 625.43 billion naira recently paid to them by the federal government. The payment to Abia, Akwa Ibom, Bayelsa, Delta, Edo, Rivers, Ondo, Imo, and Cross River states covered 13% oil derivation, subsidy, and Shopee refunds. The refunds date from 1999 to 2021. In the suit numbered FHC ABJ CS 2371-2022 and filed last Friday at the Federal High Court, Abuja, SERAP is asking the court to direct and compel the governors to disclose and publish spending of the derivation, subsidy, and Shopee refunds. And to discuss one or two of these tidbits, I have in the studio Nana Kazaure. She's the spokesperson of the Labour Party Presidential Campaign Council. Madam Nana, welcome to the studio.
Thank you for having me.
Good and viewers, later we will be joined by Chima Christian. He's a young, vibrant public affairs analyst residing in the Southeast. We are going to discuss issues arising, in respect of insecurity ahead of the February 2023 elections. But we'll go on a short break, and when we return, our discussion with Nana Kazaure commences. Don't go away. Welcome back. Madam Nana, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too.
Yes, you people are starting the New Year on a big note, right?
Very big no.
Well, yesterday, President Obasanjo fired the big salvo. But before we go to that, I want to have your take on the claim by PDP that 11 governors are actually working for their candidate, Atiku Abubakar. Do you really trust them, what they say?
Every time I have the opportunity, I always say I don't speak for these parties. They're one and the same. You know,
that is the PDP and the APC.
PD, APC. You know, so
What do you mean by PD, APC?
You know exactly what I mean by that. They are both. They are, you know, they're from the same.
Okay.
Do you understand? They're all from the same, exactly, from the same root. And so I just, you know, don't pay them much heed. But, you know, if they say there are people working on the ground to help them, you see, that's the difference between us and them. We're not doing our things underground. The obedience are there. You can see us. You can identify us, you know. And yes, there are some people who would prefer not to be named or called, but it doesn't mean that they're being cowardly about what they're doing. Why are they working secretly and underground? If they believe in something, come out and defend it. Okay. That's just my opinion.
Because last week, before the end of the year, there was this claim that, you know, Tinubu also met with Wike, Otto, you know, Makinde, and all that. And later, Tinubu said he did not. They're just playing.
They're just playing with, and you know, my party, my principle, what we want to do is just remain focused. I think these are too many distractions. People, when you say the PDP, they've talked about how they're uniting, but even amongst themselves, these issues still remain, and it's glaring for everybody to see. So.
Okay, well, the other issue, you know, Serap, I know they are actually obsessed with going to courts all the time. Now, on Friday, you know, maybe it's the last year gift for the South governors that they drag them to court to account for the monies released to them by President Muhammadu Buhari. Do you think it's a worthwhile voyage by Serap to drag these governors?
Every time we ask for accountability, it is a worthwhile voyage, because that's what Nigerians are asking for, and that is why you can see my presidential candidate, His Excellency Peter Obi, is very, very viable, because he himself will say to you, go and verify. He himself will say to you, and if I don't do this right, or if I had promised a certain thing, hold me accountable. So it is very, very important, and it's good to see, it's actually refreshing to see that Serap is saying, be accountable. That's what the whole Obidati movement is about, accountability.
And I think even political parties should engage in that, maybe asking for accountability, because it's what is actually transparently lacking in the
What's
system.
Going on right now in the Nigerian political space is people are beginning to ask questions. Okay. People are wanting more answers. People are wanting to hold people accountable for everything that they've done. So this, as far as I'm concerned, is very refreshing to see.
But as far as we are concerned in the media, the beginning of elections campaigns in 2022 was actually dominated by insults, name calling, name dropping, and all that. Do you think this will continue, or maybe the narration will change? This is 2023. We have less than, 60 days to go to the polls.
I noticed something. I noticed a decline in people calling, you know, the name calling, and even people from a certain political cadre calling names. I've noticed a huge decline ever since our vice presidential candidate, Senator Yusuf Datti Baba Ahmed, actually held a press briefing where he had to challenge these and said, you know, when you're doing this, you're going against the peace accord that everybody signed. So, and there's something that President Olusegun Obasanjo said that just made me really happy. He said something to the Nigerian youth. It was more like an advice, if you call it, very advisory, and it just capped up the whole summation of his document to endorse His Excellency Peter Obi. He said he's asking Nigerian youths to please stop taking on people's enemies and taking on certain prejudices. So it's almost as if what he was saying, from my understanding, you just go and inherit. You understand? You probably have never met that bad Igbo man. You probably have never met a terrible Yoruba man, a terrible Tiv man, a terrible Ibibio person, a terrible Hausa Fulani man. But because of other people's prejudices, because of other people's
propensity for name dropping,
propensity to just, you know, say things that really are not true, you see that children or people from a certain have go ahead and inherit those things. So it's best for us now, because there's something we say in the Labour Party: it's time to stop the bleeding and start the healing. In fact, I think I'm quoting our vice presidential candidate there. The bleeding should stop, and it's time for Nigerians to start healing. So we need to heal. We need to understand that we are first Nigerians, so that this country can actually move forward and be progressive. Nigeria has so much potential. Potential.
Well, that's why we brought you to the studio today. Actually, yesterday was the first day of the year, right? And the man you mentioned, former President Olusegun Obasanjo, fired a salvo at one, you know, his first mentee, if I get it right, because Atiku was his vice presidential, person when he ran as president of Nigeria in 1999 to 2007, and his tribesman, Tinubu. He said Nigerians should not vote for them. If anything, he endorsed your candidate. And that is why we brought you to the studio to tell us why, or how do you felt when you heard that Obasanjo endorsed your candidate? It's
exactly the same way that I feel. Every time I'm speaking to a group of people, I say something to them. I say, I stand with a man like Peter Obi, because even if he was from Venezuela or Ethiopia and Nigeria gave him a presidential ticket to run, I would vote that person.
Why?
So the man, Peter Obi, even the document, have you read His Excellency, the former president's, have you read it? There's something that's called the TVPC. He gave reasons, so it's not out of sentiment. He gave reasons why he chose a man like Peter Obi.
What is the difference? Is there any difference? Because this is what many Nigerians are asking.
Listen, there's a lot of difference.
Like how?
For example, there's no way that you would look at a well-meaning Nigerian, somebody who loves Nigerians, and you will go for a tax collector over a man that is pro-investment.
Who is a tax collector? Nana.
And then somebody who has been accused of, has allegations against him for corruption, even when he was vice presidential candidate. But if you are referring to
Atiku, he went to court and he has not been convicted.
Well, you know, but then again, in Nigeria, we know that there's no smoke without fire. Then you look at a man like Peter Obi and his track record. You interrupted me when I was trying to tell you the TVCPs. We have his track record. We have his vision for the country. We have his character. And then we also now have the TVPC. We now have, I've mixed it up. We now have his
anyway, his credentials.
No, I have to.
What is it? Tell me, open. Because
his physical attributes.
So
now when we look at physical attributes and we look at track record, I enjoin Nigerians ever since campaign started. Can we now even decide to collate Peter Obi's track record from how he has traveled within and outside the country? That shows a man who has vision. All of them are traveling. They have traveled, and the allegations. It's incomparable.
The allegations, Nana. The allegations Obasanjo is howling at Tinubu and Atiku. People are also howling same at your candidate, because they say he chased away people from the north when he was governor.
We know that it's not true. Please, that's not true, and we cannot begin to rely on hearsay. You understand? That's not true. He didn't chase out people. That's just the narrative that was put out there to discredit him. Why would he do that? Why?
And Obasanjo said none of them is a saint, actually. But he prefers Peter Obi.
That is because Peter Obi at his worst is still 10,000 times better than any of the other two candidates that you have mentioned.
Okay, Nana, do you think...
and he even said it in his document that, you know, they didn't always get it right.
Yeah.
You see, so that shows you somebody who is saying to the Nigerians, you know what, we are sorry for however we handle things, but right now, there is somebody in the forefront who's the better candidate, who's the better person who has a vision for this country, who has shown, and I will still go back to his track record, that he's somebody that does what he's going to, that says what he's going to do. He's not, you know, he's not a shady character. And I see Peter Obi, with working closely with him, he's a very strategic man. And in all of this, he still remains humble. How he does it,
but the
PDP
and APC campaign organization, they have already fired back the salvo at Obasanjo, that he does not have the credibility, he does not have the electoral value to actually say Nigerians go for Peter Obi.
I don't understand how these same people that claim, these same political parties that claim that they are credible, just a few months back, these were the same people saying that he was the epitome of good leadership.
Who?
PDP and APC. We've seen that, you know, the internet.
I mean, they are referring to Obasanjo?
Of course, they were referring to Obasanjo being the epitome of good leadership in Nigeria, and they would like to emulate the things that he did when he was president of Nigeria. So it now begs the question, when did that change? I still remember how a few months ago they were all going on pilgrimage to his Otta farm. He didn't come to them, they went to him. What were they looking for? They were looking for his endorsement. They were looking for him to say what he has said now in favor of Peter Obi. But just because it wasn't for them, then they are griping. And now they have a sudden belly ache and they will not let Nigerians rest. No, 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 no. We're wiser than that.
But if the endorsement is anything to go by, maybe Atiku will have been the president now, because in 2019, he actually endorsed him. So what gives you confidence that this time around, the fact that Obasanjo has endorsed your candidate, he will actually make it?
What gives me the confidence is, if anybody thinks that Obasanjo is a paperweight, they are very wrong.
Okay.
Let's cast our minds right back to a former president of Nigeria, and I'm referring to Goodluck Jonathan. If we cast our minds back, I remember he wrote a letter. Quite a damning, exactly, we're using the same words. Quite damning, and we saw the effects.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say about that.
But he's a serial letter writer.
Yeah, but we cannot take it from him that he's a strategist, he's a former president of Nigeria, and he has looked back. You know, we can't always just look at now or cut your nose to spite your face. The man has looked back. And because he's an older person, you know, they say hindsight is 20/20. When you look at something in retrospect, you see clearer and you see better. He sees clearly that Peter Obi is the man for Nigeria.
Professor Bolaji Akinyemi actually fired back at Obasanjo, and he also, you know, questioned the naivety of some Nigerians, especially you, the obedience, for actually, you know, climbing the tree where Obasanjo said your candidate is the man to beat. He said Obasanjo should go and check his record. Nigerians should also check Obasanjo's record. He doesn't have the moral grounds to start talking about who
made him judge and jury of the decisions Nigerians should make. We didn't give him that. So that's his own opinion. He's entitled to it.
And another chieftain of Afenifere, in the person of Ayo Adebanjo, you know, he spoke that if not Peter Obi, of course he's supporting your candidate. But it's like, his statement is like actually an incitement, because he said nothing should happen if not Peter Obi. Don't you think it's like he's taking the support too far?
How do you take your support too far? I really don't even understand that. If you support somebody hook, line, and sinker, which he has come to do, he's entitled to say that. If we want to even look, I don't even know if I should go there, but you know what? Let's go there.
No, go.
I remember, if I recall correctly, there was a time when our current president
Buhari
he was so adamant that he should win. If not, Nigeria would burn.
No, I think people misinterpreted his Karejini, Birijini.
So do you yeah. So that's where I'm coming from, because yeah, there's a flip side to it.
Yeah.
I understand that. That's why I was very careful to bring it up. But then we're having these conversations. So then I brought it up. So if we're not going to go that way, why should we now chastise another person for saying this is the person and being emphatic about it? There's a difference between being emphatic and being insightful. The media should be careful.
And some people are saying beyond the obedient thing, beyond supporting Peter Obi, Obasanjo don't just want any of his tribesmen to be president. And that is why he is not supporting Tinubu, he's supporting Peter Obi. And he didn't even support Abiola in 1993, and people said he just wants to remain the kingmaker of the Yoruba extraction. I don't know.
Those are people's opinions. I really don't have an opinion on that. It just reeks of that's what they try to do to Nigerians, whip up tribal sentiment, which we have seen time and time and time is detrimental to the democracy of our country. It is detrimental. It is retro. It takes us. It's like taking 2 steps forward and then people make certain comments, or people start to push a certain narrative that takes us 10 years backwards, 20 years backwards. It's no. I don't believe so. After all, he's shown that he's not being tribalistic by saying let it go to the southeast.
But Nana, I want you to be frank now.
If we want to do a rotation, excuse me, please. If we want to look at, this is my geographical mapping of how I came to say I'll support Peter Obi. It's very simple and very easy to understand. We have 6 geopolitical zones. The South has done a vice presidency and has done a presidency.
Northwest, in the person of Jonathan,
good luck, Jonathan. Northwest, where I'm from, we've also had a vice presidency and a presidency. Then obviously, when we look at the Southwest, right now we have a vice president, and we also have what do they call it? We also have a president that has come from the Southwest. Now we have 3 geopolitical zones left. North Central didn't bring anyone out, so they're out of it right now. The Southeast came with, we have Peter Obi there running for president. Then in the Northeast, we have an Atiku Abubakar, a former vice president. I have never leaned, my political leanings have never been towards him. Now, it's just a no-brainer. The Southeast, it is, when we look at it. But the
Southeast also produced Alex Ikweme in 1979.
1979 to date is how long?
But Nana, is it turn by turn? The whole thing, are we not talking about maybe lifting Nigeria?
But then again, we do have are we going to just now all of a sudden have amnesia and say we don't have 6 geopolitical zones and that we should not be considerate of those who come from those zones? Is it just 3? Do we just have 3 tribes or ethnicities in Nigeria?
We're talking about actually lifting Nigeria.
Exactly.
And I'm now saying that many people could not go to the Southeast from the North who live in the North. Why, your candidate, he has been quiet. He has not been talking about the insecurity in the Southeast. Is it that he don't want his people to see him from the negative perspective, or what?
Well, I don't understand what you mean.
I am saying that you said he will rescue the North, right? What
rescue Nigeria? Nigeria. He will work on Nigeria.
Anambra is one of the volatile states now. Has he not been talking to the governor?
Have you not seen the antecedents of his governor right now? Have you not noticed his body language?
What is his body language?
You go. You're the media person.
Finally,
you're the media
Nana,
person.
are you people taking to the bank the commitment by Obasanjo that is enough to give you the presidency?
I believe very strongly. The generals that have led Nigeria in the past, that are still alive, I believe very, very strongly that because of the nature, there's that gratitude that they are still alive to see Nigeria where she is. They had plunged us into a lot of things. And because It's an apology. What they're trying to do, how they're trying to do it, is their way of saying, Nigerians, we are sorry for the way we handled things in the past. This time, Nigeria, we give you your country. Take her.
I'm tempted to ask you whether you are talking on behalf of Obasanjo or you are saying Obasanjo is speaking on behalf of other generals that led Nigeria.
I want to believe that I'm speaking for President Olusegun Obasanjo, and if the other generals are part of this, then they are with him.
Thank you very much, Nana Kazaure. Viewers, we will go on a short break. We have had Nana Kazaure, the spokesperson of the Labour Party Presidential Campaign Council. And when we return, we will have Chima Christian from the Southeast. Don't go away.
TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
Welcome back. If you are just joining us, this is Daily Politics on Trust TV. During the first session of the program, we had Nana Kazaure, who is the spokesperson of Labour Party Presidential Campaign Council. Now we are moving to the Southeast, where we are joined virtually by Chima Christian. He's a young and vibrant analyst with ample knowledge of happenings around Nigeria and specifically the Southeast. Chima, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, Happy New Year. Good. You spent the Christmas in the Southeast. How was it in terms of peace? Because ahead of the Christmas and New Year, there were many reports that people of Southern extraction will find it difficult to go back home because of the level of insecurity there. And I know you were in Abuja a few days ago. So how did you find your way back home?
Well, the insecurity in Nigeria is now a general issue. Virtually all parts of Nigeria are feeling the heat. By that, I mean that no region in Nigeria today can say that there is no insecurity. Insecurity cannot be stamped out absolutely. But what we're seeing now is that it has escalated to the point that everybody is now concerned about insecurity. Yes, in the Southeast, we have peculiar challenges, which has somehow scared away people, because you know the Southeast economy bubbles every Christmas and New Year, because in this diaspora live in several parts of Nigeria, and then every New Year or every Christmas they pour back into the Southeast to celebrate their Christmas. This period, you may have to get travel advisories from your family members who are in the village asking you not to come because of the insecurity. So what we saw in the Southeast is that it wasn't quite a beehive as it used to be, apparently because of the insecurity.
Okay, and now we are in the year of election. In the next 60 or less than 60 days, Nigerians will go to the polls. What are your expectations, especially somebody who lives in Anambra, southeast Nigeria?
Well, first, I expect Nigeria to stamp its authority. I expect Nigeria to protect every inch of its territory. I expect Nigeria to stamp its authority as the dominant force, not just the dominant force, entity, a state actor, right? We can have a country running, and we have a country, and then we partly cede some territories to terrorists, to bandits, to whatever they choose to call themselves, known, unknown government, Boko Haram, ISWAP, whatever they call themselves, both in the north and the south and the east. Nigeria should make good efforts to protect every inch of its territory and then stamp its authority, that people can no longer frighten the Nigerian state. As of today, I have heard INEC saying that they may not be able to deploy voting machines, they may not be able to conduct elections in certain polling units in certain places because of insecurity.
Yeah.
That is automatically ceding some territories to terrorists, right? If INEC is saying that there is no police presence, there is no Nigerian state presence in some regions, that is technically admitting that you have allowed terrorists to own those regions. So I expect Nigerians to stamp out all of those insecurity and make sure that every eligible Nigerian, wherever they may be located, is allowed to exercise his or her franchise.
Okay, of late, the fear, was more apparent in South. Is going by the way, unknown government or ESN or IPO or whatever they call them, the attacks on symbol of authority, especially INEC offices and all that. Do you foresee election actually holding in those areas? If yes, how? If no, what do you think should be done?
Well, I think the insecurity in the Southeast, you have to unbundle that. And any truthful observer would know that insecurity in the Southeast has some local component.
Okay.
The local component is, that these are Southeasterners who are terrorizing Southeasterners.
Okay.
These are fellow Southeasterners who are kidnapping, who are terrorizing, who are maiming, these are just criminals, right? Hiding under the name of agitation. Some of them don't even know what they're agitating for. These are just petty criminals that have arms, no thanks to porous borders. The arms thing in West Africa, they have acquired sophisticated weapons to inflict or impose their will on the states, and they've been quite, at least, successful at that. So you have that local component of it. But there's also another component of it which has defied critical analysis, and which has also suggested that there are some foreign elements to this. Take, for instance, the INEC Commissioner for Voter Education, Festus Okoye, said to Channel TV's Shewo Kimbaloye 6 or 7 days ago that some of the attacks on INEC offices were for political reasons, that they were politically motivated. The police commissioner in Imo State, I believe, said also that the attacks on INEC facilities were politically motivated. The governor of Imo State, Hope Uzodinma, has also said that the attacks were politically motivated. So what do they know that we don't know? So the question you ask yourself is, who is the person that is inspiring these attacks on INEC facilities?
Yeah, so beyond
there is insecurity in the north.
You are talking about beyond the claim that it is unknown government, right?
Yes, I'm now asking, there is insecurity in the northeast.
Yeah.
There is insecurity in the north. There is insecurity in the north central, even in the south, where, as you would know, there are negotiated peace somehow there, but there are still non-state actors in their numbers who are armed to the teeth. There's insecurity in the southwest. Now, how is INEC able to protect its offices in all these theaters of armed confrontations, but they are not able to do so in the southeast? And then if you're saying that there is a political reason or there's a political undertone to this, who stands to benefit when this INEC facilities are attacked in a particular region? I mean, not that I endorse that INEC offices be attacked, but when you have a nationwide attack on INEC facilities, you can now say, okay, there's a national spread of insecurity. But when you have a national spread of insecurity, but you have localized spread of attacks on INEC offices. to gain when INEC offices are
I think as a security reporter, yeah, because I have reported issues relating to insecurity for over a decade, and I have this feeling that every geopolitical zone has its peculiarities when it comes to the matter of insecurity. I recall, like during the Boko Haram, you see the attacks were actually on police formations. They were not touching INEC facilities, even though there was election in 2011, there was election in 2015, there was election in 2019, but they were attacking other symbols of authority like police stations, army formations, and all that. And in the north central and parts of northwest, you see them now raiding, villages and also attacking security formations and all that. But what is the way out? How do we now actually address the general insecurity in Nigeria ahead of the February elections? Even though you are not a security expert, but as a young person, a public analyst, commentator, and all that.
Yes, I think Nigeria should start by telling us what all they know about the insecurity, right? For instance, you have triangulated, and you are right in saying that Boko Haram was focused on military formations, because on November 18, 2018, when Buhari launched his re-election campaign, you will recall the attack in Metele in Borno State, where about 150 soldiers were reported killed by bandits and terrorists. And the day after, on the 19th, when Atiku launched his campaign in 2015, that same November 19, 2018, people who were sent on a rescue mission to rescue the bodies that were attacked the previous, they were also attacked and ambushed and killed, right? So you have insecurity. But today, Nigerian authorities, from their words, from their choice of words, say this is politically motivated. For them to have arrived at that conclusion, they must have gleaned data. Unfortunately, they are not able to release the data they have to the public.
Yeah.
Motivated. Who are the sponsors of these things, and why are they attacking INEC offices? That question has not been answered. But away from that, right, dealing with general insecurity, Nigeria must be able to ratchet up support. If we cannot do this internally, if we have looked at the numbers, if we have looked at our military, if we looked at our police, civil defense, and other ancillary security agencies, and we find that we don't have the resources needed, we may have to apply, because I'm aware that Nigeria sends troops to ECOMOG operations. Nigeria has troops in the Gambia, in Senegal. Nigeria has troops in foreign missions, right? So if we have found that Nigeria is unable, and I don't want to agree that this is the case, but if Nigeria is for some reason unable to protect all of its territories going into an election, then it should seek all the help and possibly all the international support it can muster, especially from within the African continent. And I agree that some of these African countries have challenges of their own. But if we've exhausted, partners cannot send us contributions that will help us solve this insecurity, then we can open up to international partners, the United States, the EU, and all of those people, not to come and stay, not a permanent force, but a temporary people that will assist our local troops on the ground to provide some form of stability for the elections.
Okay, but Chima, the way these people are saying that all politics is local, all security is also local. Are you satisfied with the body language of, let me say, politicians, traditional rulers, and religious leaders in the Southeast? Because there is this claim or allegation of conspiracy of silence among this crop of leaders. What will you say on this?
No, I don't think that that's fair enough, right? Because you know that a lot of traditional rulers have been kidnapped and killed.
Yeah.
A lot of them have been kidnapped and killed. Also, a lot of politicians have been attacked.
Why? Was it because they were outspoken, or just to make maybe a case, to say that we are here, just killing them to just make a case or to make a point? Or is it because the traditional rulers were outspoken, those that were targeted and killed?
Well, I wouldn't know the motivation of why those traditional rulers were killed, because some of these things we don't know. When you have general insecurity, maybe people who are having difficulties, who are having quarrels, feuds, can now, find a way to outdo each other under the guise that there is a general insecurity. So we don't know what is happening. But what we see and what we know is that politicians have been attacked. Some have been killed. If a lawmaker have been killed in Anambra State, I think 2 lawmakers, one former, 7 lawmakers were killed, and traditional rulers have been killed in Imo State. And these are the things there. But when you say that there is a conspiracy of silence, and I now say, what do you want us to do? For instance, you would know that vigilante groups are under the direct supervision of the state governments. For some reason, the Southeast is not able to sort itself out and the form of regional platform. They called it Ebubago. For some reason, that Ebubago did not fly.
Yeah,
right?
why? What
And
is
then
the
when you
problem?
have a security outfit, vigilantes that are armed with pump actions that can only do 30-meter little damage, and then you are going to face criminals armed to the teeth, sophisticated weapons. What can people who have pump actions do against people who are sophisticated, who have automatic rifles and sometimes surface-to-air devices? So that is the problem, that Nigeria has been unable to decentralize security. So as of today, all the security is centralized to a point, the chain of command in Abuja. And today, the chain of command is unable to address these issues. Like you rightly said, security is local. But when the locals are not empowered to tackle these issues, then what do? The people who can Jabba have left the Southeast. The people who can live have left the Southeast. As of today, there are people who are, holding traditional marriages. And if you know the Southeast, you will know that the traditional marriages is one of those customs that we hold there.
Yeah.
But today, because of insecurity, people are doing their traditional marriages in Lagos, in Abuja, in other places, because they don't feel safe coming back here. And let me rewind a bit. Because I had your discussions with Nana Kauzare, where you asked her questions about Northerners unable to do business or unable to do something in Anambra State. And I agree that there's general insecurity. Even those of us who are from Anambra cannot do business in Anambra, let alone people. So when there is insecurity, for instance, when Boko Haram attacks a village in the north, they don't segregate between the local components of the villagers and the people who live there. Once they attack, anybody within that place is subject to their attack. When Boko Haram bandits overrun a community in, say, any place in the Middle Belt, for instance, when they attack a particular, they don't ask you, are you from here? Do you live and do business here? Once you are in the line of fire, you will fire. The same thing is happening in the Southeast. But there is this narrative that there is a deliberate attack on Northerners in the Southeast. That is not the case. The case is that there is insecurity in the Southeast, that Southeasterners are kidnapped, Southwesterners are kidnapped, Northerners are kidnapped. So if you happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, you are subject to being a victim. Including religious people, clerics, priests, bishops have been kidnapped, and these were widely reported. So if these things are happening, there is no noun argument or reason to say, oh, there is a sequester that a particular region is attacked. No, this is not a northern versus southern agenda. This is not an ethnic agenda. This is not a religious agenda. You just have insecurity in the Southeast. And because of that, anybody who is seen by these terrorists, according to terrorists, because that's what they are.
Okay. Yes,
Chima, I don't like that there is an ethnic bent or religious bent added to it. Let us deal with the insecurity so that the Northerner can feel safe doing business in the Southeast, and the Southeasterner can feel safe doing business in the Southeast, and indeed in all parts of Nigeria.
Okay. I remember when I was covering the insurgency in the Northeast, part of the problem was more or less complicity. You see people around some towns and villages seeing some of these miscreants as heroes. It was when it started consuming almost everyone that it dawned on them that, look, we are all going to die. Because it's like these attackers, they don't really understand religion, tribe, or whatever. And there is the same allegation now in the Southeast, especially outside the region. People are saying some of these agitators are actually receiving some support, not really practical support, but endorsement of sort, that they are actually fighting for the freedom of the region. Do you believe in this?
Yes, and I'll be truthful to you. Anybody who has studied insecurity knows that terrorists often start out as freedom fighters, or at least that is what they claim. And anybody who is living in Nigeria today, whether you're talking about education, whether you're talking about unemployment, whether you're talking about the economy, whether you're talking about the exchange rate, whether you're talking about economic policies, monetary policies of the government, there are ample opportunities of criticisms. So anybody can wake up and criticize the government. And what you're seeing is that some people who are manipulators, who are expert communicators, have reason to tell the people, oh, the government is bad, and we're good. And the people for some time gave them their ears. The people for some time thought, oh, maybe these people are coming to rescue us. But we warned our people, I have a 2014 article, I have a 2015 article, I have a 27. So you go online and you see that we want our people to say, this is an experiment you won't come out of. Fine. We say, look at what happened in the Northeast. When these people started running their mouths, the Boko Haram, they were against the Nigerian state.
Yeah.
And what they presented was an alternative to the Nigerian state that is an El Dorado of some sort.
Yeah.
And they acquired local consciences. The same thing happened in the Southeast, because I won't lie to you.
Yeah.
These people started as the typical terrorists that they are, promising heaven on earth. You know, and then they had the sympathy of the people at some point. But once they acquired power, and when you have a power that cannot be subjected to accountability, when you have power that cannot be audited, when you have power that cannot be checked, and then the power became too much for them, and then they turned out to become the lions that started feasting on
virtually everyone.
They told our people, there cannot be a time when you can be friends with a lion. The lion is always a carnivorous animal. Our people played with fire, and today they have seen the consequences. And I can tell you this for free.
All right.
Go conduct an opinion poll in the Southeast. Very few, if you will still find them, are still in support of these criminals. They no longer enjoy that kind of sympathy and support. Just like Boko Haram no longer enjoy the kind of sympathy and support they enjoyed previously. That is the situation on the ground today.
Now, is there a way forward? Are you foreseeing something positive before February with what is happening now? Do you foresee people rising against these people so as we will have the congenial environment to conduct the election?
Well, if you say people rising, Nigeria is a state, and I think it has its flaws. I believe, not I think, it has its flaws. Unlike the United States, where every citizen is empowered to have his arms, sometimes sophisticated arms, and it's working for them, although it has its consequences, as you would have seen in the numerous mass shootings that is besetting the country. Today, Nigeria is in such a place where individuals are not allowed to acquire certain kinds of weapons. And even the weapons that are constitutionally allowed, you have to go through a rigorous process before you obtain the permit to acquire those weapons. And then for people who are poor, who cannot buy food to eat, then how come are you able to apply and acquire weapons to protect yourself? So if you're saying, can the people rise up against these people? People cannot rise up against terrorists. It is only the Nigerian state, through its soldiers, through its police, and through other military and security formations that can rise out and stamp out these terrorists. What the people can do is, in the case people have relocated, some of these places that are strongholds of these people are almost ghost towns today. People vacate those places and run to places where they can feel safe, right? At some point, I couldn't go to my village for 9 months, my own village, for 9 months in Anambra because of insecurity. So when these things happen, there's little to nothing the people can do. But the state, which has the responsibility to protect, should step up.
And this brings the question that, are you satisfied with the assurances by the police that we assure you, we are going to secure Nigeria, we will secure the Southeast, all the 6 geopolitical zones to conduct election? Are you satisfied with these words coming from them?
You know, in answering your question, one has to draw the line between patriotism and speaking the truth.
Okay.
If you're going to be a patriotic Nigerian, you would say, let us believe our police resources. But the evidence on the ground suggests otherwise. Okay. And I'll give you one instance.
Okay.
One instance. There are places today where police stations are vacated completely, no police presence, completely. Even police DPOs cannot deploy their men. Cannot.
So are they ungovernable
in 2017
spaces?
Elections, it was on official INEC reports. Go and read official INEC report on the 2017 elections. INEC says it could not deploy security men and women to certain polling units in Anambra State because of insecurity. And recall that that was an off-season election. where we had 30,000 deployments, 30,000 policemen deployed on Anambra 2021 governorship elections. So if 30,000 people sequestered in the second smallest state in terms of landmass cannot acquire and protect all the territories, then what then happens when you have elections holding simultaneously in all the 176,000 or thereabout units you have in Nigeria? So I am patriotic and I'm on the side of the police and the Nigerian state to quickly acquire the competence and the capacity needed to make sure that all eligible Nigerians feel safe enough to come out and vote. And that where all the villages where people can come out to vote, that Nigerian police will work with INEC to deploy both materials and men to sequester and to manage those places. And then in the interim, I also say that some of the insecurity we see in Nigeria, some of them can be negotiated. For instance, the insecurity in the south is there can be political negotiations. And this is not the first time people have recommended this to the federal government. Okay. Unfortunately, the federal government sees itself as the super brother and the tone-deaf brother that will not address issues until it gets out of hand. The insecurity in Nigeria has gotten out of hand. And this is where the federal government sees itself behind its responsibilities. And I hope that in the wisdom of our aged parents who say that when you have too many enemies, you offer cola to some of them, which means that when you have too many enemies, you make peace with some of them. As of today, Nigerian army is deployed on active duty in 36 out of 36 states. 36 out of 36 on internal civilian policing army. So they are stretched too thin. There is no region today where there is no security presence. So if there are some of these issues that can be negotiated, why don't you negotiate for the time being and solve these issues while you acquire the capacity and the competence to assert your authority on the Nigerian state?
Thank you very much, Chima Christian, for your well thought out ideas and ways to solve some of these teething problems actually facing the 2023 elections in the face. We thank you for coming to the program and we hope you join us again some other time. Viewers, this is where we come to the end of the program today, which we hope you enjoy, and we will come with another interesting package for you tomorrow. For now, thank you for being with us. I'm Hamza Idris.